How do you think your experience in the ring influences your approach to building systems and marketing?
Honest to God, I think that training martial arts is one of the most eye-opening things that you can do.
The comparison between SMS and email and which one you found converts better and why?
In our opinion and from our numbers, text messages seem to get the best conversion rate.
Okay, well, let's get rid of the email altogether. What would you say to that?
I would say why? You might be jumping over dollars to pick up pennies by trying to
Yeah.
eliminate email.
Do you have this feeling like, am I catching up? Am I catching up enough?
I don't have that feeling, and the reason why I don't have that feeling is because
What's been like a recent success story for you?
we recently grew a landscaping company, their annual revenue by 60%.
If they want to reach out for your services, what's the best angle there?
Facebook, you can just look up my name. You'll see me sitting next to a tiger.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode on the HighLevel Experience podcast. Our guest today is a fellow HighLevel agency owner from Cleveland, Ohio. This guy's got a killer background in sales, marketing, and he's all about bringing a systems-based approach to local service businesses. When he's not busy automating the marketing world, he is throwing down in the MMA ring. This dude can not only build your business, but also probably kick your butt. So today we're diving into some juicy topics like systems-focused marketing, his infamous rule of 7, and the ultimate showdown, SMS versus email, and which one really converts better. Please welcome to the show, fellow high leveler, Charles Craggett.
How's it going, everybody? I'm glad to be on.
Great to have you on the show, Charles. Mate, you've got this pretty fascinating mix of marketing genius and MMA prowess. How do you think your experience in the ring influences your approach to building systems and marketing?
Honest to God, I think that training martial arts is one of the most eye-opening things that you can do. It teaches you how to focus under pressure, game plan. When you're training, it's best to sometimes follow a system, follow a program. And ultimately, I just kind of take those sorts of lessons about the essence of martial arts and I apply a lot of it, not just to my business, but to my life overall.
I like that. Yeah, talking about systems, I've done a little bit of jiu-jitsu training a while back, and there are systems to that too, right?
Yes, 100%. Yeah, jujitsu is no joke.
What martial arts do you train?
Muay Thai, mostly. I do a little bit of everything, but I prefer the kickboxing and striking. So Muay Thai and boxing are my two main things that I get into.
Really? And how
Yes.
often do you train?
At this point, still 4 days a week. Yeah. Yeah.
It's important to exercise, isn't it? I mean, running an agency it's a lot of sedentary work, so it's good for balance.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. When I first started this agency, I kind of was doing the sleep under your desk, work sun up to sundown kind of thing. And that did help with building the agency. But then I looked at myself, I'm like, oh, I'm fat and I'm tired. I had to go ahead and get back on my activity. Otherwise, just like you said, this can be a very good job, a very good gig, a very good business, but ultimately very sedentary.
Yeah. Well, that's so. Yeah, I was actually going to ask you that if you were doing martial arts before you got into the agency world. Sounds like it was the other way, as a need to do something.
No, it was one of those I've been training martial arts on and off for maybe the better part of 10 years.
Hmm.
And I just go through these periods of my life where I'm maybe working on something or I'm trying to accomplish something specific, and I get very tunnel vision. It's a gift and a curse. And so sometimes I let all things go by the wayside. And one of the easiest things to let go by the wayside, especially when you're working from home, is going to the gym or things like that. And then for a second there too, it's, well, you're making good money. You're getting these clients in the door. Do you really need to get kicked in the head? And yeah, you do still need that. You need that as part of your life because it makes you feel human. It makes you feel alive. So
Yeah. and keeps you humble. Yeah, this is a good point though. Like the tunnel vision, that's something I can relate, and I would bet that a lot of people listening can relate to that as well. Like where, at least for me, it is like that where I'm either super distracted because I've got a lot of tabs open and I'm trying to stay on top of the latest AI and manage inboxes and build custom automation. And I've got a meeting coming up and lots of different things that distract you through the day. But then when I get lucky and I get really organized and I've got a day without meetings, I can go like full on into one thing and go
Yeah.
really deep and detailed. And sounds like you've got the
Yeah. Yeah, and that was
same
something that
situation.
I had to be intentional about working on that because, your health is your wealth. You can't do anything unless, you're healthy both spiritually, mentally, and physically, right? And
Yeah.
that's why I really enjoy martial arts. It kinda hits that trifecta for me of all 3 of them.
What inspired you to start your agency?
So I was working in insurance sales at the time. I had my own agency and we had built it up pretty well. I had a team of about 10 agents at the time, and COVID wound up happening. I'm sure we all remember COVID, and then everybody got locked in their houses and everything like that. Well, they still expected us to sell life insurance to people, but they
Mm,
gave us the most rinky-dink phone system, communication system I've ever experienced in my life. And since I was an agency owner, I was thankful I had a little bit of pull. So I said, well, I'm just going to build my own internal marketing system. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to learn how to do these things. So it started with me learning how to set up CRMs, and that's how I got exposed to Go HighLevel. And then that turned into learning about a variety of different advertising strategies, whether it's paid ads, SEO, web design, answer engine optimization, whatever it is, right? I just decided to just become a sponge because I wasn't doing anything else. We were locked in the house. I was able to, in between sales and while building this internal marketing system, teach myself about all these different types of advertising. And when I finally launched that system for my agency, we were still hitting record breaking months, even during a global pandemic. So I'm like, wow, these systems can really work. And a friend of mine reached out to me. He's in the window replacement business, and he's, "Hey, I see what you built as far as running your marketing through. Do you think it could work for a business like mine too?" And I said,
mm.
"Yeah, I could. I don't see any reason why it couldn't." And so he paid me a couple $100. I didn't know what to charge at the time. He paid me a couple $100. I set up his whole system for him, taught him how to use it, everything like that. And he really enjoyed it. He enjoyed it so much that he started telling more and more people about me. And it just sort of dawned on me, wow, I could make a business out of this. And that's when I started going on YouTube and I realized, oh, there's a lot of people who are building these sort of marketing and automations and digital creation agencies. So it started off with us just building CRMs for people. Then we added advertising. Then we added things like web design and custom automations. And, we've just been growing, and I'm really blessed for that.
That's well done. Yeah. So you started as just so I understand that you were an agency working for an insurance company and helping them get more life
I
insurance deals, and then you build
Yes.
an agency around that, like a vendor.
Yeah, so and I'm not sure how it works over where you're at, but when you work for an insurance company, you create an insurance agency underneath that company. So you're writing insurance for them, but it's your own individual agency, but it was just purely an insurance agency.
Right.
But
So B2C.
yes.
That's
And
tricky.
so Mhm. And so then I got the idea to actually start a marketing and automations agency after building out our internal system, seeing them work, and saying, you know what, I could go B2B. And instead of haggling with people about $60 a month, I'd rather go through the process of maybe haggling with a business for a much larger contract where we're really moving the needle and getting more business in the door for them.
Are you still in the insurance space?
I actually have a couple clients that are in the insurance space, but no, I've since left insurance. I don't sell it anymore. I don't have a team. I just have my original book of business that still pays me a little bit.
Yeah, because I mean, let's talk about sales, right? The idea of cold calling, or I don't even really know, like the business of selling insurance. It's interesting to me, though. But the idea of speaking to somebody on the phone and like having to sell them insurance, I have no idea if that's something I would enjoy doing. How does that work? How do you sell insurance?
It wasn't the most fun thing, but the way that we used to sell it was people would mail in a postcard or something of that nature to our company saying that they're interested in life insurance. We would get that card, we would give them a call. If they decided to go through the process and get a quote with us, that's great. More often than not, we had people telling us to piss off and all the other stuff, so it is exactly like what you think it is. However, really,
Wait, hang
it
on.
was really enjoyable.
What? Wait, you say mailing? They had to mail it back? That sounds. I mean,
It
this.
was archaic, yes.
That's
Like
what the
insurance
hell?
is, yeah. So back during that time, especially, insurance is kind of archaic. It doesn't move very quickly with new technology, stuff like that, because there just aren't a lot of people who come into that industry and really push to innovate things, right? Because especially in America, insurance is like one of the biggest institutions, bar none, in the United States. There's an ungodly amount of money flowing through these insurance trusts and everything like that. And so they're like, what's the incentive to improve?
Right.
We're already beyond loaded. We've got these customers who pay us ABC per month. Extrapolate that across the entire United States. Why would we worry about changing anything? And so
Mm.
that works for them all the way at the top. But as a young, hungry kid that was coming in and trying to build a business in insurance, that didn't work for me. So I was the
Well,
person who was going to innovate.
yeah. Well, it sounds that was actually a perfect opportunity for you because there
Yeah.
wasn't nobody doing it. So, I mean, yeah, it's just mind-boggling that people were sending by post stuff. So, yeah, so that's an easy one actually. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
just
So
go
I mean,
digital.
exactly. We started advertising online, it was a simple Facebook ads funnel. We pushed it to an ebook offer that just kind of educated on them on things they needed to know about life insurance. Once they signed up for that ebook, they got the notification that they could book a consultation call with us. Once they jump on the call, then it's just us consulting them on their options and getting them signed up. So we were able to really simplify that process, and we were one of the only agencies at the time really doing stuff like that. And now, more and more people have discovered this stuff. They're doing more of it now, and these agencies are really doing some phenomenal things in insurance using HighLevel and other CRMs and stuff of that nature. But like you said, we were one of the first ones to do it. And doing this as an agency and selling B2B is it's way more enjoyable than B2C selling over the phone doing insurance. So transitioning to building my own automations and marketing agency was a no-brainer.
Yeah, brilliant. Are principles that apply to any industry when it comes to marketing, right? You got to build awareness, then move them into considering you, and then go into decisions. So with insurance, like you said, you had a funnel that you were driving people from an ad into a lead magnet.
Yes.
What I'm curious to know is your conversions. I would suspect the conversion from a lead magnet onto booking a call. That's where typically you see like a big drop off, right?
Yes.
Um, what you found worked well at optimizing that?
So honestly, where we found a lot of success was, of course, we're using the ebook as the top of funnel, right? We're using the ebook as the top of funnel. And the main goal, yes, we want conversions and things like that, but the main goal of the ebook was really just to build our list. Okay. Mosey talks a lot about the power of having a list and the compounding effect it has on your business, right? So it doesn't matter whether you're, because right now I don't work in insurance anymore, right? I'm primarily working with local service businesses, but this applies the same way, right? Where if I've got this list of people who were somewhat interested in my product or service, and I've now got their email and and their phone number so I can reach out to them at will any given time, that's where I'm getting most of the conversions from. So that's how we focused on optimizing that. We're like, hey, great. If they come immediately through the ebook and then book an appointment, that happened maybe 20, 30% of the time, right? And then we maybe had,
And that's a good number.
yeah. And then, but then we have to factor in that even though these people might have booked a call, they might not have showed up to the call.
Right.
So,
Yes.
so it's really closer to maybe 10, 15% when you take that into account. But what we noticed is that by building that list and consistently sending out emails, consistently sending out text messages to the entire list, whether they booked an appointment or not, that's how we were able to get to a consistent 30% conversion rate on the things that we were bringing in from the ebook.
Brilliant. So long-term nurture, follow-up. A lot of businesses, that's where they miss most of the opportunity, right? They run ads or they have somebody run ads for them. They trying to follow up with all the fresh leads and then they don't have anything in place to nurture the rest.
Yeah.
How long were your nurture sequences?
Typically, we would have the most aggressive nurture sequences where we're reaching out to them every couple of days, maybe for the first 2 weeks or so. And it's more about, hey, you got this ebook. Hey, you were interested in coverage. Hey, so it's like we're trying to catch them while that thought was still in their brain, right? But
Mhm.
after that initial aggressive 2-week campaign, we moved them to the long-term nurture where we're sending them a text and an email. An email goes out every week and a text message goes out like every 10 days. And then as that lead gets older, the cadence just gets a little bit wider because we don't want to spam people to death, nor do we want
Yeah.
to, make our sales teams sit there and have to dig through a bunch of old opportunities. We prefer that the computer reaches out to the old opportunities and they focus on the hot people who are coming through the door, as well as the hot people that are responding to the messaging and email campaigns and stuff. So we don't want to bog our team down with the tedious follow up. So that was the main thought process there.
Yeah. Most of listeners here are agency owners. So what we're talking about here is not rocket science, right? This is traditional principles of how marketing should be done and having a long nurture sequence in place. One thing I am interested to know from you is, and that was in my intro, the comparison between SMS and email and which one you found converts better and why. And is
So
there even a winner? Because how do you compare that? Have you done only purely SMS and have you done purely email? And then have you done both in tandem? What A/B split is? What have you tried? How did you come to that conclusion to whatever the answer is?
in our opinion and from our numbers, text messages seem to get the best conversion rate, especially in regards to the services that we're working in now. We're working with landscapers, we're working with roofers, we're working with people like that, folks in the trades. The reason why we believe text messages work better is because, and I'm not sure if the same thing is true in Australia, but everyone in America walks around with their head in their phone 24/7, right? They're always holding it, they're always scrolling on it, they're always texting on it, they're always doing something on it, right? An email can come into your email. It might get sorted into a promotions inbox. And most people, they've signed up for so many different things over the course of their lives that their inboxes are just like loaded with nonsense. So the likelihood of your email even being seen, let alone acknowledged, and then converting into a sale is relatively low, which is why emails rely on volume. They're cheap to send, and we can blast a lot of them out very quickly with very minimal spend, right? But text messages, little more expensive, but we notice that way more people see our text messages than they ever open our emails. They're at least aware of us. And then it also kind of goes to what I really like, the marketing concept of the rule of seven, where
Hmm.
someone needs to get in touch with your brand or be aware of your brand at least 7 times before they typically transact with you or reach out to you or whatever it's going to be, right? So the fastest way to get to that 7 touches is great. We ran an ad online. That's 1 touch. Cool. We sent you something to your email once you filled out our form. That's touch 2. Now we're sending you a text message. There's touch 3, and we're hitting you on all these different channels, right? Since you engaged with one of our ads, now our retargeting is going to continue to show us to you again, right? We're going to
Yeah.
continuously text you, we're going to continuously email you, and typically what we see is that the text message is the straw that breaks the camel's back, where it's, you know what, I'm going to reach out to these people. And really, I think it's just because of simplicity. When it comes to text messages, we use just a simple yes campaign where we present a problem that we can solve for them and then just say, reply yes if you'd like us to work with you. It's very simple. And I'm sure you've set up numerous things like that, but a lot of people will read it. I do have this issue with my roof. I do have this issue with my plumbing right now. I do have a new property that I need to put electricity in. Yes. As opposed
Yeah.
to maybe an email where you have to go to the website or reply to the email or something like that. So I think it's just simplicity and visibility that makes text messages work a little bit better.
You may not realize this, but for the last 2 years, I've had a secret weapon that has made running my business inside of HighLevel so much easier. You see, there is so much that HighLevel can do, which is amazing, but it's a lot of work to stay up to date with it. And even more so if my customers are asking me questions about it. And this is why I'm excited to announce that our show is officially part of the HLPT Creator Network. This is HighLevel Pro Tools, an organization that I've been using to run support for my customers, as well as give me a ton of awesome epic add-ons that make running, launching, and differentiating my SaaS inside of HighLevel so much easier. And now that they're an official sponsor of the show, they've done something pretty bloody awesome. If you go to hlpt.com/experience, you can get one of their incredible tools absolutely for free. No purchase necessary, just for being a listener on the show. So head over to hlpt.com/experience, grab that free tool, and I promise you this is going to improve the conversion rates on your page. Check out all the other stuff that they offer and tell them that Pete sent you.
You know what's wild? There's a smarter way to grow your agency and help more local businesses without adding more stress. That's what HighLevel does. It's your all-in-one sales, marketing, automation, and AI system. No more duct taping tools together or paying for 20 different subscriptions that barely talk to each other. I've been using it for 5 years with my own white-level version, Stand Out From the Pack, helping Aussie businesses like Dimitri, a Canberra electrician, who now runs his jobs, quotes, calls, and follow-ups with our built-in AI employee. If you're an agency, HighLevel lets you do exactly that. Support your clients in new ways while building stable, recurring revenue every month. And if you're a local business, partner up with somebody who knows your market and your industry. If you're in Tasmania, my mate Jared from Boulder Digital, for example, has you covered. If you're in Canberra, that's my turf. Check out standoutfromthepack.com.au and we'll get you sorted. The point is, there's probably a high-level agency or SaaSpreneur near you. We're seasoned marketers, tech-savvy super nerds who love helping local businesses grow. We're global, we're connected, we're high-levelers. Now, I've got something really special for you guys. I've negotiated an exclusive 30-day HighLevel trial that's double the usual just for you. Sign up your agency through gohighlevel.com/vid or upgrade your existing plan, and I'll hook you up with over $3,200 worth of bonuses, resources, templates, and snapshots I normally give to my private clients only. So whether you're scaling an agency or leveling up your business, start with the right system. Go highlevel.com/vid or team up with your local SaaSpreneur and let's make business simple again. One platform, one login, no duct tape, just results. What would the argument be for saying, well, if we know, and we know, right, SMS, we know SMS is better. But okay, well, let's get rid of the email altogether. What would you say to that?
I would say why? You might be jumping over dollars to pick up pennies by trying to eliminate email. Because even though email might not be the conversion point, it helps in the conversion process. You know, as long as you can maximize visibility with your marketing, then everything just works itself out, right? So you want to just have an overall budget for your marketing and an ecosystem where you're like, okay, there's text messages, there's emails, there's ads. And that's why we take a systems-based approach to marketing as opposed to just trying to bits and pieces our way through, right? We
Yeah.
want to build an entire marketing machine so that not only are people coming in and converting consistently, but on your side, you guys have a standard operating procedure for how you guys are managing leads, intaking them, getting them booked into appointments, and servicing them and collecting payments.
Absolutely. Yeah. We've had many episodes on this show on the topic of database reactivation. We had Rob Bailey on one of the very earlier episodes. So this is a very effective strategy and it works. What is interesting is we are now in 2026 and we're 20 minutes into this podcast and we are talking about principles that, you know, I would have interviewed people 2 years ago that work. And now we're talking about it and they still work.
Mm-hmm.
However, AI is now entered the game as well, right?
Yeah.
So we have data enrichment. We can personalize the heck out of it using prompt GPT. We can use voice for inbound, outbound now as well. Have you started to incorporate AI into your offering?
Yes, we have. We do build custom writing agents that help us put together the text and email campaigns. What we like to do is we interview the client once they get onboarded with us. We talk to them about their family, their principles, what sort of business they're running, the entirety, right? And then we
Yeah.
feed that recording to ChatGPT to build an AI writing agent. And then on the HighLevel side, we built a series of internal agents that are just handling things like appointment booking, client qualification, things of that nature. But yeah, no, I mean, AI is definitely on the move and it's very useful. I think some people, they try to over optimize with AI and they kind of suck all the soul out of their business and people aren't really responding super well to AI in the sense that they're like, I don't really want to talk to a bot. And that's fine, right? What we want to do is we want to use AI as a means of just connecting people. We want to make sure that you're talking to the hottest leads. So the AI is going to handle the qualification, the simple appointment booking, the simple questions that a person might ask. But the person who's genuinely interested and wants to work with you, we're pushing them right to that prospect so that they can get their service and do it as quickly as humanly possible.
Brilliant. Yes. So you do that all through workflows. You build your like workflow actions, or have you also delved into the agent studio?
I haven't dove super deep into the agent studio. We built just a couple of inbound call agents as well as SMS and email agents.
Mhm.
So I'm still playing with it and I wanted to learn a little bit more about it as, so we can progressively scale up the AI side of what we're doing because we know that's where businesses are going. Right now, we're working on finalizing something within an AI engine optimization service. There's just lots of moving parts that we need to go ahead and make sure that we're placing into our business. So AI's there, it's not going anywhere, but we believe that you should be using it to systematize things, not just replace humans, which is the common buzzword and, or buzz phrase rather that people are pushing out there. Is going to replace us all. And I'm like, well, no, I think it's going to empower us. I think we'll be able to do more with less. And in my case, we run a really lean agency because of things like AI and automation.
Yeah. You brought an important point earlier at the start of talking about the AI where, it's powerful, but some people just overdo it just for the sake of implementing AI across everything. But the critical thing here is the strategy around it. So this is where, and this is still fairly early. I mean, well, early, right? AI has been around for a fair bit, but the rate of innovation that's happening is just so fast. So that's a factor as well. But definitely having a strategic approach to how you utilize it is key. What I'd like to know from yourself, being in the agency space for a while,
Yeah.
how do you personally deal with this, like the rate of innovation, how it's like significantly faster, like on daily basis? Like what I'm trying to say, it's back before AI, it was like, well, there were principles that were like pretty set in stone, services like SEO and ads and email marketing. And it was just a matter of getting some experience and being good at it. But then, okay, cool. Well, that forms my foundation. That's my service offering. And you could build a business around that. And then now things are shifting so fast that do you have this feeling like, am I catching up? Am I catching up enough?
Ooh. I I don't have that feeling, and the reason why I don't have that feeling is because I like to work with business owners who are like, even though the fact that there's a lot of innovation happening is actually a benefit to us as agency owners. Okay. Because we can position ourselves as the person who's, hey, look, we understand all of these different things are changing in marketing, in systems, in tech, in this and that. There's a lot of great things out there. There's also a lot of BS out there. It's going to
Mm.
be part of the services that we offer you to implement the things that we know work so that you don't waste time, money, and energy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That's, I
that's
think,
where my framing is. I'm like, let's take advantage of the fact that there's a lot of stuff out there. Since we're nerds and we're going to be in the weeds learning about this stuff anyway, and since we've been exposed to a variety of tools in the past, we have the expertise to say, okay, that tool is bullshit, but this one's great, right? Sorry, I forgive my French, but this one's not that great. This one's solid. This needs to be implemented into your business. This one is just redundant if you put it in your business, right? So we can be the person who is able to consult the busy business owner who doesn't have time to learn marketing, systems, all that other stuff. I mean, my guys are tradesmen. They're up on roofs, they're fixing pipes, they're doing the work that keeps things moving, right? They don't have a whole lot of time to stop and learn how to fiddle with an AI integration. It's my job.
yeah.
And that's what I'm going to position myself as. We're a solution for not only your marketing, but also your internal systems, because I wholeheartedly believe they're connected. And that's why when we get with a business, we typically do an overhaul of their internal systems just to make it easier for the leads to be distributed, for workflows to be smoother and all that stuff before we start bringing leads in. Because if the workflows aren't optimized, then that just means they're going to burn money on ads because they're going to be missing opportunities because things are just coming into the void. So I
Yeah.
think that as long as we present ourselves as the value is our expertise as well as our execution, we'll be fine.
Yeah. Doing the diagnosis of a client super important. Otherwise, you'd be scaling dump truck on fire. Um,
Yes.
we had a call before this interview, and we dove into You're big on system design, and I'm very much like that as well. So we had good chat there before, but for the listeners, maybe we can dive into that a bit more again and talk about the topic of what goes into putting together. There are services that are pretty good to go out of the box, but then you're going to get a client that's got like a unique use case and they need something very bespoke and they want the whole overhaul. So that's when like I go into discovery and then I go into the system design and I map it out on a whiteboard first and then go over rounds of follow up discovery calls with the client to make sure that I get all the additional feedback and then end up being a detailed visual representation what that system would be, and client is on the same page as me, and then only then I can properly code it, and then we go into actually build it in their account.
Yeah.
What's your process?
Our process is similar. I mentioned earlier that when we intake a new client, we do an extensive interview with them. Again, there's numerous reasons because that video has a variety of different uses, right? Part of the questions that we ask is about their internal workflow. And the interesting thing about trades businesses is that a lot of these guys do not actually have an internal workflow. They just kind of know what to do, but there isn't a standard procedure of how things play out, and much less is anything automated, right? So to us, that's actually a benefit because we would prefer to build it from scratch instead of trying to retrain somebody on a bunch of systems they've never used before, right? If they're used to a bunch of chaos and going between a bunch of softwares and everything like that, and now we come into their business and they're like, well, now you're just going to work inside of Go HighLevel. Some people might be a little resistant to that. But in our case, what we've been finding is these people don't have any internal system set up. They have a bunch of disconnected softwares, and they're like, whatever you can do to help us systematize this, do it. That's where we're at right now. And part of that interview is finding out if they even have a workflow to begin with. But once we lock in on the workflow that they do have or lack thereof, we actually use ChatGPT to help visualize and create a more optimized version of that workflow based on the tools that are available inside of Go HighLevel.
You said you work with service-based businesses. What kind? Plumbers, roofers, electricians?
Plumbers, roofers, painters, electricians. If you're working in the trades, we're working with you.
What's been like a recent success story for you?
We recently grew a landscaping company we grew their annual revenue by 60%. And that was just by implementing Google local service ads and a really strong CRM with consistent monthly and bi-weekly and monthly text and email follow-up. We did that over the course of the year. When we first got with him, he had a strong business, lots of word of mouth, lots of referrals, but just a lot of disconnected systems. Didn't really know how to make use of his contact list. He just knew he had a pretty big list of previous customers and interested people. And he was also paying like $1,000 a month or something to some local news publication to just kind of put up a billboard or put out a little magazine about him or something like that. And total waste of money. And so we were able to come in, take the money that he was spending on all his non-functioning advertising strategies, move it to a digital approach that focused on Google local service ads and meta ads. And then we optimized all the back end systems, added text follow-up, email follow-up. Newsletters were huge on newsletters, especially with something like landscaping. It's very visual. So we were able to send out some great imagery to people and say, dude, your lawn could look like this. Your yard could look like this, but you haven't worked with us yet. So
Communication, staying top of mind. Yeah.
it's
In
like
the
that.
service trade industry, there is job management platforms. I always find that, it's really hard to get away, not having to have those with clients. In an ideal world, we would love a client to just use HighLevel for everything, but there's specialized softwares like Service Titan or Service Titan, especially the big one in the US. So, when you get a client like a plumber, for example, they kind of rely on that software a lot. What have you found, like from your own experience, when it comes to clients who already have that and integrating with HighLevel works?
There are three giants here in the US that we tend to bump into when it comes to the operations software. There's Service Titan, there's House Call Pro, and there's Jobber. The
Mhm.
beauty of all three of these is that they do have some sort of API integration that you can tap into. So what we like to do is we like to say, look, this is going to remain your operations CRM. Okay. But we're going to do all of your marketing inside of Go High Level. The only people who are going to be inside of your Jobber, your House Call Pro, your Service Titan are the legitimately interested prospects, the ones who booked an appointment or the ones who you have a call booked with, right? Everybody else just stays in the Go High Level CRM for us to manage, and we only pass the hot leads over to you. You know,
So
so
your
that
business, you don't get the client to have to log into HighLevel at all. You do it all through the HighLevel for them.
yes, and then we're able to set up automations between when they update something in Jobber or House Call Pro or Service Titan, it updates the messaging and everything like that that they start getting inside of High Level because we're just using a series of different webhooks and everything like that. I'm not huge on the technical jargon. I'm good at finding people who can help me do creative things with code and tech and introducing them to business owners so that we can create some really cool stuff. But we tend to like to keep people in the systems and tools that they're already using, especially if they are using a Jobber, House Call Pro, or Service Titan. We love those. And then we just implement Go High Level as a marketing CRM for them. We manage it as part of the services and we build the automation so that data passes back and forth between the two so that they can run their business the exact same way, but now it's way more optimized. All of the text messages follow up and everything like that happens automatically. Invoices are going out automatically, etc. So we're not just stopping at just optimizing and building a high level for them. Our whole agency offer is based around optimizing and cleaning up their entire internal systems.
Have you ever thought about also like offering like a pure SaaS?
I have thought about that, especially recently. I spoke to someone and they were just talking about just building out a software. And I think the only reason I haven't done it is just because I do enjoy just sort of being in the weeds as like a large agency owner. But at the same time, I'm recognizing that I'm probably leaving money on the table by not just having a SaaS offer. So that's something I'd like to consider and I'd love to learn more about
And when I
as
mean
far as how.
SaaS, yeah, yeah. I mean specifically just reselling HighLevel itself, under your
Yes.
own brand, but like getting the customers to log in and utilize it themselves.
Yeah.
You don't have any clients like that doing it that way. They all manage their business in like those
Yeah.
other platforms.
I tend to focus on businesses that are already pretty well established, at least 500K or better in revenue. And they're kind of at the point where they're not just trying to get a new CRM, they just want these tools handled. So they're willing to pay more to have this particular problem of marketing and systems solved versus getting bits and pieces of it and trying to figure it out themselves or hiring someone internally to do it for them. The beauty of AI and API integrations, automations, etc., is that it's the same way whether we're just giving them a high level system or we're integrating with their current systems and CRM. once we set it up once, it runs. We're just managing it at that point, and we're just there to fix any potential errors, answer any potential questions, make the light updates and everything like that. But we would prefer to go through the process of finding a client who's going to pay us $3,000 a month than, in my opinion, trying to push out software for a couple $100 a month, and maybe they train, maybe they use it, maybe they give it a shot, they cancel it after a month. And this might be my limited thinking because I just haven't thought that far, but me personally, I
Mm.
just prefer going after large agency clients.
Yeah, I mean, look, if it's working,
Yeah.
the old saying, if it's working, don't change it. It sounds like it's working for you, so well done, mate. That's good. So your pricing is about 3 grand, and it's like a retainer thing. Does that
Yeah.
include managing their ads, or is it like an upsell for ads?
So we have a few different service offerings. It also depends on where they're located, but our average retainer is around $2,200, and our current highest retainer is $3,500 a month. That does include ads management, also the entire Go High Level setup, and an account manager that's there to update their text and email campaigns if they ever need to, as well as just make changes and updates to their high level as needed. Uh,
Okay, great.
and then,
So
oh,
you're in.
and then I was gonna say too, we also, for our local people who are right here in the state with us, we also offer social media management. We're partnered with a media production company. We send a videographer out to their place of business, walk them through the entire process of filming content, then schedule it, post it on their behalf, and generate leads that way. So when I say we build an all-encompassing marketing system built around their business size, and that's why we like working with larger businesses. It's, look, let's come in and solve all your visibility issues. Organic on the social side, paid side, text and email follow up. We'll cover all the bases, and I get to kind of be fractional CMO, so to speak.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
I like the approach with partnering up with a content creation, video creation agency. Even with AI, like there's an appeal that you could do a lot of things with AI and videos, but I think, or like creating original content, going to the business, recording them, showing them how they do what they do at work, and let the operators within their business, the plumbers, the electricians, the specialists to position themselves as experts on the video. I think that is an excellent strategy because it comes across more real. Well, it is
Yes.
real. And
Yes.
so, I mean, have you tried to do any like AI produced video as a test?
Me personally, I don't much like the AI videos. I mean, I understand that they work and I've seen that they can generate success, but that's just me as a personal, like, human being. I'm
Yeah.
not a huge fan of the AI content creation. Plus, it's just like you said, we like that human element of going to a person's place of business, showing them the reality, and then there's also the side of bringing it back to where people don't much care for AI that much.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I think that a roughly filmed video of a business owner talking about his process for manicuring your lawn would do infinitely better than an AI generated video with the same script, right? Just
Yeah.
because I
I agree.
think this is going to be somebody that's going to, I want this person to come to my house. I know who I'm talking to. It's not some computer generated thing. It's a human, it's a person. Oh, and that's what we have to remember when we're in business, especially as if we're working with customer facing business, just regular Joes.
Yeah.
When it comes to just regular consumers, they aren't as mind blown by all of the things that maybe us business owners are mind blown by. Yes, your business is more efficient if you use AI, but as a consumer, I don't respond to AI. I don't care about your efficiency. I'd rather you be a little bit slower and communicate with me like I'm a human being. So I'd rather
Yeah.
it takes 2 days for a video to come out because you had to edit it and film it and whatever, as opposed to putting out a video in 30 seconds because you used a fancy prompt on ChatGPT. That's just how consumers work right now, especially for
Yeah.
our customer base.
Aside from that being a matter of preference, ultimately it comes down to what really works. And I tend to agree with you on this. I think, yeah, that's what people want. And as there is more and more AI content being added on the internet, I think that personal aspect is just gonna increase in value. So, what would you mind sharing just like for as an inspiration for fellow agency owners out listening to this who might be in a similar industry as you, perhaps in a different state, different country, but how do you package up the video content creation in terms of like how many videos do they get? How long is the session? How long does the videographer spend with the business owner and the team? What's the example of that? Just if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah. So when it comes to how we're managing the content creation, it's a monthly content day. We spend anywhere from 2 hours to 3 hours with the client, once per
Mhm.
month. We'll tell the client, bring multiple outfits, bring multiple different pairs of glasses, shirt, whatever, so that we can give the illusion that all these things are being filmed on multiple different days. We'll have a series of questions already printed out that are just designed to get a person to speak on film about their expertise. So, in the case of, say, the landscaper who uses our company, we'll meet him at a job site and we'll just ask him, hey, tell us about this retaining wall project that you're building. And he'll get to nerd out and talk about the project and how it's weighed and how we have to use the mowers around it and how we have to build it up the right way and how we had to get permits and all that other stuff. We take it, we clip it, we post it for them. But that's how we manage the content days, usually about 3 hours, have them change outfits or change locations during the course of that 3 hours, film anywhere from like at least 30 reels per session, if not more, and then just progressively drip them out over time, typically about 4 posts per week, 2 videos, and 1 image post and 1 carousel post.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Now, if you're working with business that's got a large team of, say, plumbers and they're all across different job sites, ideally you'd want to have variety of people in that business on video as well. How do you handle
Yeah.
that?
So in that situation, what we would look to do is we would find maybe the 3 most interesting projects that might be happening, right? And if they've got a whole bunch of plumbers and if they've got an extended need for more videos, then that would just mean we just increase the pricing and the amount of time that we might have to spend with them. But ultimately, we would just take that 3 hours and go to all of those different locations. That's the beauty of working with a local service business, is that they're servicing an area where someone is only 10 minutes away, 20 minutes away, right? So we can film at one location for an hour, take 10 minutes, drive around the corner to the next location, film there, then go and meet another guy at another location and film there. So we could do it all in one day, or we could break it up into a 2-day content session where we're at 1 or 2 locations on one day and then another locations on another day. So it really just depends on what the client has going on, and that's ultimately covered in discovery. But that's why we haven't really productized our offer, right? Our offer right now is still, it's a custom-based marketing proposal based on what we can do with them, and we
Mhm.
tend to give them 3 tiers of visibility. Our text and emails and paid ads is kind of our, this is our go-to that we pretty much sell to everybody. But then we stack in things like SEO, website design and management, and social media management.
So the video only comes in if they do if they opt in for one of these add-ons. That's not a default.
It's not a
That's how you can
default.
keep.
No, it's, yeah,
Yeah.
it's part of a package. Yeah.
So like your lowest package, which is just the automations and the follow-ups, that might be like still like a 2K a month or less.
Yeah, the lowest one that we have right now, we're just doing texts and emails for him, and he's paying 22.50 per month.
Okay. So if they go for social media and content creation, that's where it starts to go into a couple extra grand
Yeah,
on
to
top.
that
Okay.
yeah, to that 3K a month range. But if we're talking just texts, emails, automation setup, etc., that's usually anywhere from $2,000 to $2,200. Then when you start stacking in the other services, that's when you start getting to that
Hmm.
2,500, 3,000, 3,500, etc. And then the other thing that we do too for my agency owners is we have a small setup fee that's built into the initial one. So if it's $3,500 per month, their first month is $4,000. That $500 just creates a little extra breathing room as you guys get everything built out.
Yeah, yeah. And you could potentially reinvest it back into acquisition for more clients
Bingo,
through paid ads and all that. Yeah.
bingo.
With the video, so can we talk numbers here a little bit in terms of like business, like the business model, the scalability and profitability? In my view, when I hear, your base offer, it seems like that would be the most profitable because it's a snapshot. You just tweak a few things. If you're doing it the right way, you're doing it on the back of custom values, so that's even easier to set things up as far as the campaigns goes. But then when you start getting into very custom service like video creation, going to sites, recording, that might be, like you said, 2-3 hours a month plus post production afterwards, clipping it and all that stuff. That has a real expense tag associated. So, what if you're looking at your numbers, what do you see is like the bread and butter for you? Is it the base offer because of scalability or not, and why?
So it's actually our custom plans are sticky, which is ultimately what I'm going for. I would rather have 15 consistent clients that are ready to work with me for the next 3 to 5 years, and we're going to build their business together versus just kind of like getting people in en masse, right? With that like simple, scalable offer. And the beauty of
Yeah,
how we do our social media and our custom proposals and everything like that is it's still highly profitable for us to handle the things like text messages, emails, etc., right? That's no problem. It's just a snapshot. We just add in the cost of completely outsourcing these additional services. So the social media management is in no way handled by me. It takes nothing away from what I'm doing or anything like that. It's just a simple value stack. And I've worked in like let's say I go and meet a plumber. He wants to do social media management. I bring the program back to the media production team that I work with, and they say, we can do it for $850 per month. I'm going to go back to the client and I'm going to add that $850 into my package, plus maybe two to three to $400 as profit for myself.
yeah, a bit of a buffer
So
there.
yeah, the media production team still gets their full amount. They're not giving me a discount or a deal or anything like that. I get to add a lot of value to the service that I'm providing for a client. The client becomes very sticky because they know that Charles is handling all areas of their marketing and they're very satisfied with the program. So when somebody comes in and they're like, oh, I can build an AI receptionist for you. Oh, Charles has somebody that can do that. I don't really need that. Oh, we could run your paid ads. Charles is already running our ads, actually. He's got a team on that as well. So that's why we kind of look at ourselves as we like this fractional CMO model because it allows us to get really creative and just sort of create these strong offers to where these people are going to be sticky and work with us consistently over time instead of that. I think they say the agency churn rate sometimes is 6 to 8 months,
Yeah,
something like that. Most of my clients have been with me now for about 2 years.
well done.
You know, and again, it's just because we're sticky. We want to handle a lot of the internal stuff, do a good job, take the stress off of their plate, as well as just be an expert sort of right hand. This is my marketing guy. All things
Yeah.
marketing, all things system. We've got a Charles for that. And it eliminates a lot of the need to communicate with other companies about other stuff, unless, of course, we
Mm.
weren't doing our job. But the reason why our customers have been with us for 2 years is because we do our jobs well.
Yeah, yeah. That's brilliant. Charles, thank you so much, mate. I appreciate you sharing this. There's a lot of lessons here from this, valuable info for the rest of the folks listening that they can consider some of these strategies. I mean, the big one that stood out for me is scalability. Like you're able to provide a full stack offering, but outsource those type of services that would be a lot more difficult to scale, such as that video production, because now you're talking about, as your business grows, you're going to have more customers to go and drive around with the videographers and all that. That means more employees. So
Yeah.
I'm
And
no,
that's on the onus of the videographer. He's gonna
that's right.
have to hire more video people and stuff like that. And he's in the same position as me where he's very happy to grow. He's excited about it. Charles is bringing me consistent new business. Every time he gets a client, I get a client.
I was
And
going to say, does it work the other way as well? If he gets
bingo,
a client, then he
yes.
refers them over to you. Yeah,
Yes,
perfect.
yes, 100%. He's had people that just started with social media management, but then once he diagnosed their problem, he's okay, well, this is what we can do for you if we just did social media management, but this is what we could do for you if we did it in a package. And we added
Oh,
things
so
like
they
text
package
message
you into their package and then they add their markup.
and that and
Or they send
forth.
them your way and then you give them a affiliate commission or whatever,
Yes,
whichever.
yes,
How
so it's
much,
like,
how much, sorry, I
no,
jumped
go ahead.
into, yeah. How
I was
much would
gonna
you
say it's
attribute?
like having salespeople without having salespeople.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm a big fan of leverage. I'm a big fan of referral partnerships with companies that serve exactly the same market, but not in competition. Is kind of like the fundamental how that works. But the next level to that is if it's actually somebody that has complementary services to what you do. That's like the ideal. So that is a perfect example right there. How did you strike up that relationship? Did you find it took a while to build trust to make that work, or was it pretty much
No, me and him, the owner of that media production company, we met at a local real estate investment event. And both of us were relatively new in our businesses at that time. He was just working as a photographer and videographer for that event. And I was handling their social media posting and things like that, trying to figure out exactly what this agency was going to be.
yeah?
So we met, we wound up liking each other a whole lot. I wound up sending some business his way. He sent a little bit of business my way. And eventually it dawned on me as I started talking to these larger companies, and they're like, "Hey, Charles, do you do anything with social media? Hey, Charles, do you do
Mm.
anything with this?" And I have an agency model, which is very fluid. And, people just want their problem solved. If I can create a good deal and a strong package for these people, then yes, I really could handle all of their digital marketing. And if they've got the cash to handle it, then they're going to do it 10 times out of 10. So that was ultimately how that got started. I went to Nick and I presented the idea and I was like, hey, look, I'll pay you whatever it costs to handle the social media marketing. I just want to outsource it completely to you, but you just let me know what you need to make and I'll work it into my pricing. And Hormozy talks about things like price anchoring and stuff like that, right? Where you should have at least one offer that's just huge, just a big, massive offer. If somebody takes this big, massive offer from time to time, life is good. But the idea is that if they can't do the big massive offer, they can probably do the 2250 per month and at least get their foundations built. Then once things start rolling in, hey Charles, can we add SEO? Hey Charles, can we add social media management? Right?
Yeah.
So
It's a bit of a
ultimately the
flywheel.
way we frame it.
Bit of a flywheel with your offerings. Yeah, we kind of do something similar with our setup fee. I am more of a SaaS based, so I resell high level under our own brand, and then
Yeah,
focus on like educating their team, not necessarily the business owner because they are not the ones that will do it. They're always busy, but onboarding their team, educating their team, so then they're building their own like a marketing arm. And I always say, look, this is how you keep more money in your pocket that you can put towards ads rather than paying agencies on retainer. That's kind of like the the hook
yeah,
there, and it works. But with the setup, when they sign up, we charge $2,500 for the account setup, and that
right,
includes setting up one calendar, setting up the AI agent, basic voice AI, all those little things, the email, the phone system. But then on that page, you say, look, you can pay it and we're going to do all these technical things, or you could do it yourself. We got resources and you just delegate one of your team members. And sometimes
exactly.
people pay it, sometimes people don't. What then happens is they delegate it to somebody and they might be successful at setting up basic things like linking up their socials for the social planner so they can start scheduling stuff. But let's say the phone system or the email system, they get stuck on that,
Yep.
but at that point, they've already done a bunch of things already. So we can't go back to them and say, hey, pay for the account setup. Because so what we've done is we broke it down into individual services like email setup is this much, phone is this much. So that
Okay.
creates a bit of a flywheel. And we just got like this services. It looks like a restaurant a la carte menu. And
Yeah.
they can just go there as, oh, what's your starters? What's your main courses? We just have a bit of a funny fit. My background is I used to work in a restaurant as a
Okay.
chef. But that
Add
way
some
they can just go
ingredients.
in, they can just like, okay, yeah, I need this. I got stuck on that one. I'm gonna check that. I'm gonna order that. I'm gonna also order that to go with it, and then this other thing I'll get as well. And then they just go in, and it's because it's defined. We've got the description of that service defined, so the scope is there, and the price tag is there, so we don't have to go. Okay, let me quote you. Unless it's a automation side of things, that's always more tricky. But yeah. So yeah, it's just on the topic of flywheel because you never know, nobody ever comes the same. Ideally, we would love to, right?
Yeah.
Like everybody code the same buyer process. Like Tesla, you have to put a down deposit, then you pay the remainder, and you get a car.
Yeah.
Such a simple model. I like that, but with services, it's a bit different, isn't it?
Yeah. And see, we use a very similar approach because even though the proposals are quote unquote custom, it's still usually three different offers, right? Or three separate packages. One that's a little more lean, one that has some additional services added, and then the large one that's our local domination package. And it's designed to either just get people in at this high-end local domination package or make the first two look really affordable and interesting
Yes.
and still be
That's
very
I was gonna say
valuable,
that. That's the
you know?
Hormozy strategy there is they've got some high ticket thing they can compare against. And if you didn't have that, then that's like the top. So then they're gonna look at that being the expensive thing, but it's not. It's like the middle tier offer. So yeah,
Exactly.
it's all just psychology and all that stuff. So it's yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, and I
interesting.
was gonna say, we've obviously everybody on this podcast has probably heard of Hormozy or at least been exposed to these concepts, but yeah, I mean, if you guys haven't, Hormozy and his pricing strategies are very strong. You might wanna check those out for
Yeah,
anyone
if you
listening that isn't aware.
if you've been living under the rock, definitely look up Alex Hormozy. I'd be surprised if there's somebody that didn't hear about it. I mean,
Some
again,
folks
this
are
is
new. You never know.
well, yeah, of course, yeah, and that's no, you're right, yeah. That's the role we play, and it's to make sure that we surface this for everybody. And if you knew about it, then it's just a refresher for you, and if you didn't, then go and check it out. All right, Charles. Well, we're at the end, mate. Thank you so much for being on the show and sharing the insights of how you run your agency. It's valuable and always good to hear from a fellow agency owner how you guys run things in your agency because ultimately it helps everybody else level up. So thank you so much for being on. Charles, if somebody is listening, I always like to think it's probably most likely a fellow agency owners listening, but you never know. Could be a business owner that is exploring high level and stumbles upon this podcast, and maybe they have service based business in your area. If they want to reach out for your services, what's the best angle there?
So, if you wanted to reach out to us for our services, we can be reached at our website, www.getjobflowsystem.com. That's our job flow framework for home service businesses. And that's where we do that marketing and systems audit to see what they're working with and create that custom proposal. If you're an agency owner and you just want to network, share some ideas, and, follow me on social or anything like that, my Instagram is charles.nwm. And then my Facebook, you can just look up my name. You'll see me sitting next to a tiger.
Okay. We'll put
Yeah,
all those links in the show notes, guys. Charles, thank you so much for being on. I appreciate you sharing the insights about your agency.
I appreciate you having me on, Vit. Thank you.
Guys, thank you so much for listening to today's episode on a high-level experience. If you've enjoyed today's episode, then please share it with your fellow agency mates. You never know. Somebody's starting out, they just need a bit of help, and this could be a resource that helps them do that. So please share. For show notes, links, and extra tips to help you grow your agency or your SaaS with HighLevel, please go to highlevelexperience.com. Thank you, and have a great rest of your day, everybody.